down into the float bowl that the gas sucks up. On the end of that brass tube, there's a little screw-on fitting on the end that has a little hole in it, and that you can change that fitting to adjust the size of the hole to go bigger or smaller. And that little fitting on the end of the brass tube is actually called the jet. And so, so say for instance, if you got a bigger exhaust, or bigger exhaust is a good example, then you threw it on, and you might feel your bike bogged down because now it would be running lean because it doesn't have enough gas. And so, because now you have too much air circulating and not enough gas to keep up. So you would go ahead and you would adjust your jet. You would go down and take the tip off that jet and put a new one on. And so anyway, your jets are adjustable to the tip screws off to allow you to to change it. So anyway, the problems I find mainly are that jet is clogged. The jets, some carburetors have multiple jets, and the jets will become clogged over time with gunked up gas, maybe from setting, or just dirty gas or rust. I don't know, it could be anything. So to clean them, or to inspect them, you're going to want to remove the float bowl. And here's the bottom part of the float. This right here is it's just part of the release valve. It when you unscrew this piece right here, it allows gas to come out of here, which actually comes out of this brass rod. Actually, anyway, we'll forget this brass rod, because I don't think I'm a little. Yeah, even with the screw closed, you can still get a little air through there. Let's see. Yeah, don't be afraid to screw around with your carburetor to see what the hell's going on. So actually, that brass rod just seems to be like a little breather tube that is somewhat open regardless. Maybe you guys will correct me if I'm wrong there. So anyway, the important thing to know is all this is this just a reservoir for your gas. Throw the gas, the gas gets in there and holds until your float, or it keeps filling in this area until your float comes till your float closes the little switch that allows gas in. So anyway, not a lot to notice there. Clean it out. There's some crud in the bottom. Nothing exciting. You clean it with a little carburetor cleaner and then blow it out with some compressed air. Nothing exciting. So here is where you start getting into stuff happening. This is your float. Might remind you of what you have in your toilet, that this is actually upside down. See there, that's it in its open phase, and so gas will come in and fill up this float bowl and then push this float up, and once it reaches typically parallel with the top of your float chamber, you want that to be parallel with that will shut your switch off and not allow fuel to come in anymore. And you can test that by blowing on the fuel inlet. And wow. So it seems that my little switch is not shutting off for some reason, and that's why my float was just filling up with gas and wouldn't shut off. What's happening there? Why won't it? Well, let's see. We'll pull it apart. So to get down in that switch to check it out, you can pull this little metal rod, and it's just generally held in there by tension. It might have one side is bigger than the other, so it might be directional, so that it can only come out from one end. You can't pull this pin out while the float chamber or thing is on, so that's why there's nothing really locking it into place. So pull that out, and that'll allow you to move the actual float. Check your float. Sometimes some of them are made out of like cork, and they can become like essentially waterlogged, and they won't go up and down anymore. So you want to make sure that they actually float, and in this case you want to make sure that there's no hole in this thing or anything. So anyway, you inspect that, so get that out of the way. And right here is this right here is the little switch. It has, I don't know, it's probably hard to see, but it has a little neoprene tip. This right here can become worn. And it actually pushes in and closes. It pushes up against this hole you have here in the top, closes, and so sometimes you can get crud in between that tip and the hole, or this tip can get a little groove in it, or it could be any number of things. So just look at that, make sure it looks good and it's not grooved or too beat up. And often you want to soak this in some carb cleaner and make sure that it's just nice and clean. And so anyway, this thing didn't seem to be closing for some reason. I don't really see anything wrong with it. It might have just not been seated properly. I think thought there was supposed to be a spring in there. Maybe not. So, but this actually hooks in. You want it to hook into your float right there. And this one's plastic. Most of them I've seen are metal, and it has this little piece of what's plastic on this one is generally metal, and you can bend that piece up and down to adjust your float stop. On this one, I don't know if you can. I guess maybe it's not adjustable. I'm not sure. So let's see. So that piece should hook in there like that, and then we'll drop that back down into its seat. Put in the pin. Okay. Now let's see if maybe it'll shut off now. And now, I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear air flowing freely when the float is in a relaxed position. And then when I push it up to simulate gas being in the bowl, closing that switch, you don't hear anything flowing. So that means that's working well. Now, it was working well before, but for some reason it seemed to have came loose. I don't know why it came loose. Maybe I'm missing a screw or maybe a spring or something. I really have no clue why it would do that. But anyway, it's back in place now. Hopefully it'll stay. Okay, but while I'm here, let me definitely go ahead and show you a little more about what's going on here. This right here is your main jet. That is the main place gas is sucked up and mixed, sucked up to be delivered, to your engine. So you definitely want to make sure that this whole tube going through and the jet on the end is clean. This right here is a little collar that goes over that jet. I guess it helps distribute gas. I'm not really sure what the hell this little piece of plastic does, but I know if it's not in place, at least the time that I did it, it made my engine rev really high. It just, even at idle, it was just idled super high. I don't really understand why. Maybe one of you guys can explain that to me. So anyway, slide that thing off, and let's clean the jet. And this right here is a little secondary jet. I guess this is used more at idle than. But I do know that this right here, actually, when I got this carb, it wasn't clean. This jet was clogged up with crap, and so the thing would start fine, would run fine until you got it really high RPMs, and then it would bog down a little bit. So, but if I ran it with the choke on slightly, it wouldn't bog down. So I was effectively reducing the amount of fuel and air, well, the amount of air coming through, because the amount of fuel was limited by this clogged jet. So I was adjusting the mixture with the choke. So anyway, so let's pull these out. The jets screw, they have should have a little flathead slot in them, so you can just screw them right out. And make sure they are brass, so you want to really seat your screwdriver well. so you don't strip them.